Any second now. I don't know what's going on with Chris's timer, but... Okay. So, what's going on right off the bat? Well, there's a couple of options I like to turn on, including auto-dashing, turning the menu speed to the fastest, and turning on the memory cursor, which is kind of important for the... There's a glitch in this game that relies on the memory cursor. So the first thing you see our guys do here is go into the first town, Cornelia, and put on... They purchase a hammer in the weapon shop, and then they're going to perform this PSP version equipment glitch and put on a copy of the knight's armor by glitching that hammer that they purchased. They're going to put one copy on each of their 4 characters, giving them a huge amount of defense. They're also going to buy one extra copy, take that off, and sell that for a lot of money. So basically, I mean, how to explain the glitch? By turning the memory cursor on and then going into the equipment menu with one character, you can select any of the slots here. So you see there's on green side, there's a weapon slot and 4 different armor slots: a shield, a helmet, an armor, and gloves. And basically how it works is that you line up the cursor on one of the slots, and then you can scroll to an adjacent character at the same time that you open the list of items that you want to equip with your first character, and when it scrolls over, it loads the item IDs of the table for the character that you're glitching to. So in this case, with this opening glitch, you see Chris buy GreenCleric purchase a hammer, and then line up the cursor so that he can scroll over to an adjacent character from his warrior to either the thief or the... I believe it's the white mage at the start. And then he lines it up with an armor slot on one of those other characters and scrolls over at the same time that he tries to load the list of items, or load the list of weapons that he can use on his warrior. And what it does is it confuses the game, and the game loads the item IDs of the armor slot on the other character. So using this, they can get very quick access to overpowered items due to how the game assigns IDs between tables in this game. At this point, I'll introduce my co-commentator, Kibitha.
I thought I would wait for you to finish explaining the equipment glitch, because God knows I can't do that bit. Hello, I'm Kibitha. I'm going to be saying some vaguely useful things, maybe. But yeah, good race against Chris, fairly new runner, and Cleric, fairly old runner. Well,
Cleric, yeah, I think Cleric was in last year's. Cleric was in last year's tournament. I believe he was in my group last year, and I had one match against him, and he was actually hanging pretty tough with me. Mm-hmm. Then I pulled ahead and beat him in the group stages.
Nice.
But he's no slouch, and I know he's familiar with classic NES, FF1, and randomizer.
Yeah. I found like some background knowledge on this game. You don't need it to do the PSP run, but it does help a little bit with kind of judging what to do with encounters and stuff. Like, I learned a lot from the GBA version when I ran it. I also learned not to run the GBA version, but that's another story.
So here on green side, we see he's doing another one. We take a quick detour in the first little mini dungeon we run into here, and we pick up this single most important piece of gear in the entire run, the leather cap. We use that to turn it into a powerful staff known as the Judgment Staff right off the bat. This staff, if you use it in combat, casts Flare, which is the equivalent of Nuke, and basically gives us access to the most powerful spell in the game right off the bat. So it's easily the best way to deal with large groups of enemies and other enemies that were otherwise unrunnable.
Also gives us a decent way to just bash Garland around the head so that he goes down quickly.
Yeah, it's considerably more powerful than our standard early game weapons, so we just use it to knock him down.
Most powerful stuff in the game, use it to bash people around the head. You know, it makes sense.
So Chris is off to an early lead so far.
Mm-hmm.
The Cleric's not far behind, and leads don't mean a lot in this game, especially early on. It's very possible to make up several minutes just due to the significant RNG that you encounter throughout the combat portion of this run. Chris is skipping the early cutscene. That's another nice bonus of this version, is almost all the cutscenes are skippable, so we don't waste time, and you're basically just running from point A to point B as quickly as possible almost all the time. I'll be right back. 1 second.
So Chris just making his run over to Provoca, which is the next town that we need to stop off at for the story. We're going to be fighting some pirates in there so that we can get a ship. But first we've got to get through the forest, which is not a really encounter-heavy area, but it can make a massive difference at this point in the game, whether or not you can run from things.
Well, there's a lot of forests here, and forests actually have a very high encounter rate. They raise your threat level as you take every step on the overworld up to a certain point, but your chances of getting into encounter are higher on forests compared to other types of tiles. So, but there's no real walking around.
Yeah, you'll see us try and avoid them in some places, but here you just have to walk through and hope for the best.
So nothing is particularly dangerous here. Cleric's getting a bunch of goblins, which are usually pretty runnable. Chris, meanwhile,
Chris
is
heading on to the pirates. These guys we're just going to nuke with the judgment stuff. And that's a nice first turn flare, and fight over.
So yeah, rather than taking 3 combat rounds to take them all down, we'd rather just use 1 instance of flare, which is a lot faster. Once we take down those pirates, the pirate that was terrorizing the town, BK, gives us his ship, which is the next fastest method of travel in the game. We can just walk on the overworld if we want.
Did Chris get the leather shield drop there? Is that why he's headed straight out? Okay, doesn't do the mage's route? Fair enough.
I'm not sure. There's a couple of different route variations that the runners have been using this year, in contrast to some of the previous tournaments where most runners have been using the same route in general, and actually like the same party formation, which is generally fixed in all these matches. It's arranged pretty much specifically for this route. We have a warrior, because the warrior has access to the greatest amount of equipment, which makes him the most valuable member for glitching other pieces of equipment on there. The thief, with the overpowered equipment we can get, is the strongest melee fighter, so he'll be doing the bulk of the damage, especially in boss fights. The black mage can kill large enemy groups using the judgment staff, and also some spells or items that we pick up, and also learns access to haste and teleport, which are key for speeding up some boss fights and shortening backtracking. And then finally the white mage is there primarily, can also serve as a backup for killing large groups of enemies with her strong intelligence, and is our heal bot for the final fight. So that's why we use them in there. They're also arranged specifically in this order to facilitate glitching right off the bat. So you can see the warriors next to the thief and the white mage when you scroll over in the equipment menu, and each character is more or less next to each other character, because certain equipment, when you glitch it, needs to be equipable by a certain character in order to facilitate the glitch in the first place. So Chris has taken this little sail that GreenCleric has taken now, and he's now walking over towards the marsh cave. It's a lot of forest on the way there, so he's just going to get a bunch of encounters. GreenCleric's getting a shark over here. Hello, shark.
This part of the game is basically... Sorry, I just got that lone shark. Nice one. Yeah, this part of the game is one giant fetch quest, so you'll see us just wandering through the map to various places, grabbing something, carrying on to the next place, grabbing something else, carrying on to the next place. So, first place we're heading is Marsh Cave, where we're going to get a crown from some Pisca demons. But yeah, we've got to get there first.
So yeah, we're trying to get... There's basically 4 major crystals that we're trying to reach and restore the power to. And we have these artifacts that will help that happen. But each of these crystals is buried deep in the dungeon and guarded by a powerful fiend. So we have to make our way to each of the 4 of them, and in the early game we don't have direct access to them, so we have to go through this enormous fetch quest to be able to gain access to the first one. After we kill Lich in the Cavern of Earth, we get a canoe, which opens up our access to the rest of the world pretty much, and lets us get to the other 3. So we'll start with that, but that'll probably take a good 30 minutes at least, just to get up to Lich.
And
so Chris is right here.
Already here. He's doing pretty well. It's pretty quick.
So Chris is in the Marsh Cave. At this point, there's nothing we need in the Marsh Cave other than the crown that's on the final floor, so he just goes straight there and then heals before this fight against the Pisco Demons, and then we use the Judgment Staff to take care of them in 1 round. But we usually heal up because they can still hit us pretty hard even with the high defensive gear we have on. Yeah,
they can do up to about 30 damage, so if they decide to cluster all their attacks on one character, then rip.
And even though we do have a high defensive gear, I mean, you can see on GreenCleric's screen right now, he's got a bunch of wolves, but the wolves really aren't doing a lot of damage to him. But enemy crits still do full damage because they ignore defense. So if enough enemies crit or hit our characters, they can still get them down. So while we're overpowered, we're not invulnerable.
And of course, the main problem in FF1 is, due to us being underleveled, we're usually absolutely fine unless we get ambushed, and then it's fair game for status effects. So anytime you see an ambush, it's probably pretty dangerous.
So Chris has gotten out of the Marsh Cave, and he's going to head straight up to Western Keep with the crown that he picked up. GreenCleric's making his way down now. And here Chris is getting an ambush, so each of these 7 enemies gets 1 chance to attack all of his party members before he gets any chance to act. So if you get ambushed by larger numbers of enemies, that can be really time-wasting. And if they happen to be very dangerous enemies with nasty attacks such as paralysis or petrification, that can really cost you a lot of time. And it could also be a wipe. Although one good feature of this version that is not in many of the other versions is we have the ability to save anywhere. So you will see our guys take probably a couple safety saves at some key points. So Cleric's made it to the crown chest, and he's going to take out the Pisco Demons, and he actually got the first 2, so that was really nice. So far so good. Chris is getting poisoned over here, so he's going to have to probably take care of that pretty quickly. Although he's going to wait until he gets into the Western Keep, it looks like. There it goes. He's healing him up. He's healing his mages. He doesn't really want his mages to die here in this upcoming fight because they need the experience. I mean, there's not a lot of grinding in this level, this route at all, but it's helpful for us to try to keep our mages alive, especially as much as possible, because they will need to get a certain level by a certain point so that we can buy a couple of key spells. But we don't care as much if the warrior or the thief die in this one.
So of course Astos goes with his death attack for the White Mage. Now that can miss, but this time didn't.
Yeah, it's a little unfortunate for Chris, but it's really not going to change much for him. Strategy for Astos is you want to just attack with your warrior and thief and use the staff with your black mage and white mage.
Oh, Chris has managed to get off a Phoenix down, so he's still going to get the experience. That's always good.
Oh, but he used the hammer. That's a mistake.
Oops.
Oops, that's an easy. It's a minor mistake, but it won't actually do anything, unfortunately for him.
Yeah, some items, if you use them, it costs a spell. Some, it's just embarrassing. I definitely once used clothes on Chaos at one point.
As Chris gets Astos down, and he got the white mage back up, so everybody gets experience. Cleric's caught up a little bit in the meantime. Astos getting death on the black mage. Boy, they're both getting...
And it missed.
Very nice.
Should be a 110 Astos then.
Yeah. Chris is going to heal his white mage.
Look at the difference in HP. On Black Mage on 100, on Black Mage on 50.
Yeah, do we mention this game is random?
Everything is random in this game. You can't control anything, don't even try.
Yeah, there's quite a lot of random elements in this game. So, I mean, an average run of this is probably going to take a minimum of an hour and 30 minutes. And depending on the RNG, especially the encounter RNG you get, it can go over that quite a bit. So the best runner, you'll see the best runners finish probably pretty close to about an hour and 30 minutes. And some of these runners, such as Chris, that are still learning this, will probably go somewhere between 135 to 140 and possibly a little bit more, depending on whether or not they make mistakes or if they get a lot of RNG.
That said, even the best runners sometimes end up with runs that are like 138, just because the game screws with them.
Or 149, like I had a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, ouch.
That was ugly.
I can imagine, jeez.
It was 2 really bad deaths. So GreenCleric's having a little trouble here with these ghasts, because 2 of his guys got paralyzed. Really don't want to see everyone get paralyzed, or that's going to cost a lot of time. I think GreenCleric took over the lead, it looks like.
Yeah.
He's definitely taking over the lead. So Chris is having a little more trouble with encounters, and obviously all the time spent in combat with Astos resurrecting that.
Yeah, it was pretty much just the difference in the White Mage dying and the Black Mage not dying has cost them that much difference.
Cleric's getting this nasty sea encounter, which is a little difficult to run from early in the game when we don't have any equipment that aids our ability to run. I was telling him, Roach.
Yeah, it's usually, at this point in the game, usually a good idea to go for the flare and take them out rather than try and run from them, because you can spend about 3 turns trying to run from these guys.
You can spend a lot of time, plus those big guys can continue to use their gaze attack and keep paralyzing guys over and over again. So, not a bad idea to consider taking them out with a staff. Chris is caught up a little bit, looks like.
Yeah, we're equal now.
Yeah, Chris is ahead again. We're trading the lead already.
It is always nice to see it fairly equal at this stage in the game. I always feel sorry for people when you're 15 minutes in and already 10 minutes behind, which is totally possible.
Let's see. We're only steps apart from each other. That's really close. Yeah, the early part of this is by far the most random part, just because there's a lot of encounters. You don't have a lot of items to help you run away. And
yeah, we haven't overpowered ourselves yet.
Let's see.
Couple more equipment glitches, like the next 2, I think. We will have a lot more agility, so we can just run away from pretty much anything. And then we will get the most powerful sword in the game, so we can kill pretty much anything. But at the moment, we're not quite there.
Got speed sync going on here. Except Chris has got an encounter. That puts him right back.
Oh, and an ambush.
And an ambush. I mean, even in the best case, if you were to instantly run, an encounter costs you a good 5-6 seconds, which is a good 15 to 18 steps on the overworld. So, I mean, they can definitely make up a good 20 steps on there, and you move twice as fast in towns and dungeons with the dash on, so you can move pretty quick.
Oh, Chris trying to choose to run from some sharks. I wouldn't have personally done that. We'll see how he does.
We're both getting bad encounters. Let's see here.
And he's away.
Well, they both got away nice. So yeah, we're making our way back to the elf castle over here to pick up the Mystic Key, and then the equipment options are going to expand dramatically after this point.
Yeah, the key that we're going to pick up basically lets us into several back rooms where we can get some secret items and stuff, which we will use to glitch even more secret items. So
we return the Jolt tonic over here to the Elf Prince, who is cast under a spell. And then he wakes up and gives us the Mystic Key. The Mystic Key can be used to access a whole bunch of treasure rooms throughout the game. The first of which is you're going to find right in the back of the castle. And it's actually quicker to exit the castle to the left and then re-enter and then go to the right than it would be to just walk across. So Green picks up the Mithril Hammer here, which is the next equipment we need for a glitch here. So he's going to switch from weapon to armor slots and put on an item known as the Thief's Armlet. This is actually an armlet that's not in the original game. It's a piece of bonus content that was added in the GBA and is also in the PSP version. It raises agility by 5 points for each piece of armor they're equipping on. And normally you would only put this on the glove slot, but the equipment glitch does not really care about which slot things are on. The only thing it might care about is the shield slot. There's a risk of a soft lock, so we'll see our players not put anything on the shield slot for the most part in the early part of the run, because it risks a soft lock in combat.
yeah, the characters go to try and block an attack with something that doesn't have some kind of picture to actually show the block, and therefore the game gets confused.
So they both got it. So now each of the characters has 3 black garbs on, Thief's Armlets on, each of which gives 5 agility, so they have 15 extra agility, which greatly increases their chances of running from encounters, and also speeds their characters' chances to act earlier in the turn order.
Chris here chose to buy his gold needles later rather than earlier, so he's got a little bit of a time difference there.
I didn't see if Green bought.
Yeah, he did. He did on the way over to Marsh Cave.
That's a good safety idea. Is running without needles in a race is risking getting petrified, especially an important character like one of your mages that needs experience, and setting you back significantly if you happen to get petrified. So Chris is in Cornelia Castle now that he has the Mystic Key, and he's accessing these treasure rooms in the back. One of them contains a key item, the nitro powder that we need to advance to the next plot point, and one of them contains an item that Chris is going to be skipping, but it's called the Mithril Knife. We can use that for a glitch later on to create an item called the Black Robe, and the Black Robe can be used in combat to cast Blizzara. I don't think Chris is going to be using that in this run. GreenCleric, I think, is going to be using that, though. It's one of their route variations. I think Chris might be using what's known as the Black Mage route, which he purchases the spells from Elfheim in the early on, Fyra and Thundara, and uses those. And I believe Green is using an older route where we pick up a couple of key items that actually cast the same spells.
Interesting though, I was commentating a race earlier, and they did a lot more EXP and money grinding in order to get the spells earlier, whereas Chris hasn't been doing that so far, so we'll see.
Oh, it's Barb Sword route according for Chris. So he's not.
Okay.
So he's Judgment, Staff, or Bust, it looks like.
Does this just involve just hacking away at things until they die? I mean, I can approve of that. That sounds like a good method.
Yeah, I mean, I like swords. What about you?
We all like swords.
It's an even older route that relies on giving all of our characters the Barbarian Sword, which is an item that was added only in the PSP version, which is about 3 times as powerful as Excalibur in the original version, and contains a huge strength boost as well. But you would only get it from defeating the super boss that was added in the bonus dungeon in this version of the game. But we'll put that on each of our characters, and the characters will be able to do so much damage that it will often 1 or 2 shot most of the bosses in the early going. Still trying to run away. Chris, meanwhile, is in the last part of the early fetch quest that at least opens up access to the rest of the world. Because he's got to blow open a canal. In the early going, we're landlocked in a certain region, and we can only progress if we can blow a canal open so that we can progress out on our boat to open up the rest of the area, access to the rest of the sea. But we have to go through the enormous fetch quest to get the nitro powder in order to blow up that canal. And then once we have that, we can actually go to the first boss of the game, Lich. But we have to, once again, take a couple little detours on the way over.
If you think about it, if we had the nitro powder at the beginning, we could just blow up the door to get the nitro powder.
I think that's how people do what they do in Randomizer. Is they look for
that
that nitro
nice.
powder right off the back and just try to go as quickly as possible after that.
Yeah, I assume Randomizer can't have the nitro powder somewhere outside of the starting area where you wouldn't be able to get out.
Cleric's the first to reach Melmond over here. And he's gonna... We detour in here quickly to pick up one other piece of item, which lets us get the barbarian swords that we mentioned earlier. The steel gloves glitch into that, which is purchasable here in Melmond. And additionally, I believe Cleric is using the items route with White Mage, so he's glitching a mage's staff. So I think he must have picked up a leather shield drop from earlier in order to get that glitch. So he puts a barb sword on his two melee characters, and in the middle of that glitching sequence, he creates a mage's staff and then puts it in his inventory so his mages can use it later on to cast Fire Out. And that's a shorter animation time than Judgment Staff, and often kills just as effectively as the Judgment Staff does. So they take their first trip here to Cavern of Earth. Chris is walking his way over. Cleric is on the second floor right now. There's 5 floors in this dungeon, but we're only going down the first 3 on this first trip here.
Yeah, this is one of the more annoying parts of the game, where they force us to go all the way down to the 3rd floor, only to be told we can't go any further. Then we have to leave the whole way out of the 3 floors, go all the way over to somewhere else, grab something to open the 3rd floor, and then go all the way back down the 3rd floor, just so that we can get to the 5th floor.
So here we see Cleric taking a quick safety save as soon as he gets to the 3rd floor, because there are some really nasty encounters on this floor that we don't want to die to. In particular, we don't want to get paralyzed by these groups of undead enemies that might appear. We don't want to get killed by unlucky criticals by these Pisco demons, and we don't want to get petrified by groups of cockatrices that are also here. So all of these things can derail us, especially if the runner gets really unlucky.
Yeah, most of these things not too dangerous unless we get ambushed, which again we can't control.
No way to control it. That's a large group of enemies. They're green, but he gets away pretty quickly. And at the very end of the floor here, we see Vampire, which is the mini-boss for this section, and it's the first opportunity for us to showcase the power of the barbarian sword against these enemies. And while he's normally a pain in the NES route, you can watch very quickly and see that Vampire doesn't take much in this one.
Yeah, he's terrifying. We're all absolutely frightened of this boss. Like, it fills us with fear.
I'm frightened of how much time it takes. Ooh, Chris got a preemptive attack, which is the opposite of an ambush in this case.
No, the worst bat.
Ooh, that...
I swear this is the worst NPC in the game. Because it does not like going up.
Yeah, that sucks for him.
I hate
Not
that
much
bat.
you can do about that.
That bat is actually my least favourite thing in this game.
That is not my least favorite. I'm trying to think what my least favorite NPC is in this one.
I mean, the top priestess in Lufenia is pretty bad too. But that bat somehow just annoys me more.
I think the broom is my most tilting one.
Never been broomed. I'm not looking forward to it. I'm sure it will happen at some point.
My best run ever. My actual PB has 20 seconds of bad block, or broom block.
No way.
Yeah.
Oof.
He got stuck in that passageway to the door, and then the one on the outside also got in the way. So that was pretty bad.
Wow. No, Chris, don't tilt. Don't let the NPCs get you down. You can do it.
Way too early to tilt, Chris. You can do that. So once they kill Vampire, they don't really have a choice other than to walk all the way out because they can't proceed any further with the Earth Cave. There is a... I'm not sure, I guess a block at the end of the... and we can't get to the lower floors. But
Yeah, some
now
kind
that
of
we've killed it...
stone or something, isn't it?
Yeah, but now that we've killed the Vampire, we can go to a Sage's Cave a little farther west on this continent, talk to the Sage, and now that we've killed Vampire, he'll reward us with an Earth Rod. The Earth Rod can be used to clear that block and let us proceed to the last floors, but there's not really a quick way to do it. There is a way we can skip a part of this early on. There's a mini game you can play while you're on your ship. You can play a 15-tile puzzle game and try to finish in second place, which takes at least 30 seconds on your first try. And if you successfully complete it in second place, you have a 1 in 6 chance of getting an emergency exit item, which can be used to instantly escape a dungeon. It can save several minutes of escaping during the sequence, but it's such a low odds of happening.
Yeah. It wouldn't be a viable race strategy, but it could be a pretty good like PB/world record strategy.
I mean, it's absolutely worth it if the runner knows what they're doing and is willing to risk it. But
I'm willing to grind for it as well.
I mean, after a certain number of attempts, it would have been just faster to go if you fail. So, Chris is getting a shadow encounter here. They're a little unique in that every time you run into one of them, they're either going to be preemptive or ambush. So it's not going to be a regular encounter like the one that Green's getting right now. And they tend to be more often than not preemptive, so that's a good enemy to face. But ambushes are a little rare, but not something to really worry about. Because the worst they can do is blind us, and blind has almost no impact on this run.
I think it's glitched, isn't it? On the PSP version? Or is it all the versions? I think I heard.
I know it's glitched in the NES version.
I think it's glitched on all the versions that blind doesn't actually do anything.
I don't think it's not that it doesn't do anything, I think it's just that our gear overcomes it. This run. So Green has now picked up the Earth Rod and he's going to make his way back to the Cavern of Earth. Chris is in he's in the Giant's Cave on the way over, so he's maybe a minute behind right now. But again, being only a minute behind at this stage doesn't mean a whole lot. There's still there's still at least an hour left in this run, and plenty of time to overcome just about any kind of deficit.
Plenty of ambushes and preemptives to come.
Alright, so GreenCleric's back in, and he's got to go through the same 3 floors now to where he fought Vampire, and then he's got to continue. Chris, in the meantime, has made the Sage's Cave, so he's going to pick up the Earth Rod here and then turn around and walk back. So this is probably one of the most key floors for GreenCleric. It's the second floor, because there's a lot of encounters, and the encounter rate's a little bit higher on this floor compared to some of the other floors. Yeah, Bravely Default allowed you to tweak with the encounter rate of the game. There's not really any way to do that. Honestly, the only thing we can do is try to raise our characters' agility, intelligence, and maybe even their luck score to increase their odds of running, but there's no way to artificially inflate your luck score that I'm aware of. You can actually use the gear to add intelligence and agility to your characters, but there's no gear that raises luck that I'm aware of. Green got his White Mage petrified, which is okay if only 1 or 2 characters get petrified at a time. But a Cockatrice ambush could prove really devastating.
I think we've all got that one screenshot of having been fully petrified in this horrible place. Game over with the sub 30 lich.
If you're paying attention, you'll notice for the most part that we're not really healing our characters throughout this run. That's mostly to set up a grind that will be coming up a couple dungeons after this. The other thing is that a lot of the enemies here, with the high defensive equipment we have on, doesn't do a lot of damage, so there's not too much to worry about in the early going. But ideally we want our melee characters to sit between 20 and 70 HP to facilitate a grind at a certain point. Chris has gotten past where he was blocked before, so now he's on the 4th floor. He's taking the lower route, which is a little uncommon and a little bit longer. He's not sure what he wants to do here. He wants to kill these guys or try to risk their running. I mean, our party is perfectly capable of running, but it's up to the game whether or not we actually can run or not. Same with these Wraith enemies, is they can be somewhat tricky to run from.
Usually, they all get the first turn, so if you choose to run from them, you let them get 6 attacks off before you even get the option of running. So that's 6 chances to paralyze.
Yeah, it's 6 opportunities to paralyze, and any character that doesn't paralyze, any character that gets paralyzed doesn't get a chance to act in that round. So if they were trying to flee, it's automatically canceled. If they were trying to attack, it's automatically canceled. So it slows the combat down. And if enough of our characters get paralyzed, it can get really, really dicey.
And you can just be sat there for 5 minutes without control of your characters.
Yeah, they can just continuously whack on you. There's nothing you can do at that point. GreenCleric ultimately decided to use the Mage's Staff that he glitched earlier from picking up the leather shield in the early game to deal with them, because it's a significantly shorter animation than Flare to kill them and does just as much damage to kill them. So he's approaching Lich now, which is the first significant wipe point of this run, which is why you see him taking a safety save here, because our characters, even if we had managed to heal them to full, Lich could use his Blizzard move and wipe us out pretty quickly if he gets unlucky.
Yeah, we should get the first turn due to our high agility, but everything is RNG in this game. So there's a chance.
Yeah, there's absolutely no guarantee that it should only take 2 or 3 attacks in order to take him down.
That's 1. Oh, and Lich did get his turn off, but he did a physical instead, so that's fine. We can cope with that.
Yeah, Lich only has 1200 HP in this, so those 2 attacks are enough to take him down. And only the Thief and the Warrior have the Barbarian Swords, which does the most damage to the bosses, so mages were generally just going to be defending, because they're not going to contribute any really meaningful damage on that, unless they're wielding Barbarian Swords like they are in Chris's route right now. Then they can freely attack and do a lot more damage.
Chris got his Warrior petrified there, but is choosing not to heal up until he's got to the end, I think.
Yeah, we'll see. Maybe he might carry that on to Ice Cave if he's getting risky enough.
Oh yeah, he's got Barbarian Swords on everyone. Could possibly do that.
So Cleric's all done. After he defeated Lich, there was a little cutscene that shows the opening of one of the bonus dungeons that was introduced in the GBA version. It's also here in the PSP version, but sadly we're not going to see any of that content here because it doesn't meaningfully add anything to this category. Plus, once you start a run through one of those, there's no way to get out. There's no way to use teleport or anything short of wiping your party, which puts you back at the start. But there's no significant items that are in there that we can't get elsewhere.
By cheating.
Yeah, by cheating. By glitching. It's not cheating, it's glitching.
Why work hard for something when you can just cheat for it?
It's like Chris unpetrified his warrior, and then he took his 2 hits and took the Lich down. Cleric's getting a little unlucky over here. He got out of there. Okay. So they're both past the biggest hurdle of the early game. Lich. And then they just gotta get through this cutscene, and then they'll be on their way over to Crescent Lake. Now that we've defeated Lich, there's a sage over here that will reward us with a canoe, which is another key travel item we need to reach other locations, including the ice cave. And in some cases you can do it with the Mount Gog, but we tend to use the airship to get there instead. So these sea encounters that you see GreenCleric running into now, while he's still getting ambushed, with the additional agility we have, our characters are a lot more likely to run from them than they were before we had the Thief's Armlets. So this is just a long sail and walk section to get to the town. Chris is on his way over to get to the boat. GreenCleric's already landed his boat and he's just walking around to the town, but there's again a lot of forests, so he's likely to get in a bunch of encounters here. Not really any way around it. He's getting poisoned, he's just going to take a second and heal that up, just so he can control the HP of his character. GreenCleric made it, so now we're going to duck into... Hope he forgot something first. He was going to buy some ethers and... Oh, yep, he's just doing a little quick menu management. Now he's going to buy some ethers. We're going to need that for our mages later on. And then he's going to stop first in this armor shop over here, pick up a mithril gloves, and then go over to the weapon shop, pick up a mithril axe, which will facilitate the next two glitches we all do right here. This gives us access to a post-game item, or one of the items from the post-game content called the Lust Dagger, and another item called the Black Garb. Black Garb we're going to put 3 copies of on 3 of our 4 characters, which adds even more agility. So that will raise our chances to run and go even quicker in combat. And then the Lust Dagger adds another 20 points of agility, and he's going to put that on his mages, putting them basically plus 50 points of agility combined with all the equipment he's got on there. So they're going to have a really good chance to go early and often in combat.
Which means that we can take the first turn and wipe out large groups of enemies with our magic abilities. Which is very useful for getting out of fights quickly. And Chris just going into this menu as well. It's a good catch up.
Yeah, so we're going here. No, I don't think Chris is going to be using the Lust Dagger in his route.
Nah.
So he's just going to stick with Barbarian Swords. So his characters are going to be probably a little bit slower to act in combat, but they're going to be significantly more powerful, especially the mages, which are also wielding Barbarian Swords.
Mm-hmm.
So they're perfectly capable of physically attacking and killing almost every enemy, with the exception of a couple bosses. Whereas Cleric is taking what is, I believe, proven to be a slightly faster strategy in terms of raising how quickly you can get in and out of combat by raising your mage's agility and giving them enough intelligence to deal with combat besides just using the Judgment Staff.
Yeah, Chris is basically using the like task perfect strategy. Like if you've got loads of good encounters and you can run away from everything straight away, having 4 Barbarian Swords is probably best. But you're more prepared for any eventuality in the Lust Dagger route.
Yeah, GreenCleric's a little better rounded to defeat certain encounters, but Chris's strategy is probably a little bit faster if he doesn't get certain encounters. If he does happen to get certain encounters, he could be slower.
What are their PBs? That's an excellent question. Let me look it up. Because I do endeavour to look things up for my chat, who could also Google it for themselves.
Oops.
I'm seeing 134 for GreenCleric. Chris possibly hasn't submitted his yet?
No, he's on there somewhere.
Okay, I'll find him.
139.50 is what I see.
Yeah, nice. That was 2 months ago, though. Pretty sure he could have done... He might well have done something before that.
Yeah, it's entirely possible they've accomplished something else in there.
Chris, concentrate on your race, jeez. Thank you, though, for the information.
I don't know how runners can do that.
I don't know. I have to turn off everything. Just focus on me in the race.
If I try to chat when I'm running, I get very, very confused.
I can't even listen to commentary because it makes me nervous.
GreenCleric taking a quick save here as we start the Ice Cave, which is probably the most dangerous dungeon in this route. There's just a number of enemy encounters that could be really unforgiving here, depending on it. Cockatrices can petrify you, mummies can put you to sleep. You got Pisco Demons can show up and waste a whole bunch of time. You got Mind Flayers that can paralyze you here. Speaking of...
Dark Wizards, they're my favorite.
Dark Wizards that can cast Faraga on you. White Dragons that can Ice Storm you.
Oh yeah, and both of those, if they ambush you, you're dead. Nothing you can do.
Pretty much. So you might see them take occasional saves throughout this dungeon just to save that. And then we got Spectre's Wraith and Whites over here for Chris, which can also be trolly and slow you down. Cleric's making pretty good work of this so far. Having a pretty good run. Well, Pisco Demons are slowing them down. You really don't want to get Pisco Demons here because, I mean, they're the only... I believe they're the only actual fully unrunnable in this counter in this area. So, if you see them killing enemies in this, it's mostly because these encounters are unrunnable. There's no... Like, the game won't give you any feedback if you are unable to run from an enemy. They will let you run as often as you want if you want to, but it won't actually successfully run against Pisco Demons.
Yeah, it would be nice if it had a can't run from these, but it doesn't. It just lets you try forever. Oh, and that's Mind Flayers on Chris's side, which is actually a good thing because, as we've mentioned, we're trying to kill off our warrior.
So yeah, a lot of the early health management has been set up for this fight specifically against Evil Eye. This is going to be the grind point where they used to get their mages to roughly 17 or 18. But in order to facilitate that, we want to kill off our warrior thief.
And Pandara is the easiest way to do it. Perfect.
So now that two of his characters are down, you get the same amount of experience overall, but it's split between only the surviving party members. So basically you get double the experience on those two characters if they're the only ones standing at the end of the combat. So it takes half as many fights as it would as if the entire party was standing to level them up. So they're usually going to be around level 12 by this point, and they want to get to 17 or 18, which is probably going to take anywhere between 7 to 9 fights. And they can walk back and forth and force a fight with Evil Eye every time they step on this one tile.
Slightly scary part being that they actually have to step on another tile as well, which means there is a possibility that they could get one of those dangerous encounters we were talking about earlier on the off tile.
Yeah,
Doesn't usually happen, but when it does, it can be messy because you've only got 2 characters alive.
This is one advantage the Lust Dagger route has on this, is that it almost always guarantees that your mages can outspeed Evil Eye and take their turn first. It's a little riskier with the Barbarian Sword, as it's not quite as common that you get to go first. But it should still, if you heal up between encounters, you're usually not going to be at risk of dying.
But again, that's a little bit of time lost.
Chris's white mage is 15, his black mage is 14. It usually takes 1 or 2 fights at this point for each level that you want to gain.
And as well as the actual number of the level, the thing that the runners will probably be watching is some of the HP values that they're getting on their characters. Or maybe it's just me that's completely obsessed with this. But as you see, the Black Mage now has a lot more HP than he did before. 146 isn't terrible for this point in the game. But the higher that max HP value, the safer our Black Mage will be for fights later in the game. He's the character that has the least max HP as a class type, so a bit dangerous.
The GreenCleric got his mages to 18, and then he stepped on the tile to move on. And he resurrected his thief at that point. The purpose of that is to try to get a little more experience for the thief while we're in the process of doing this, but we're going to leave the warrior dead, so that, once again, the other characters still get a little bit more experience than if all 4 party members were standing. But now that they're level 18, they only need 1 more level in order to purchase, to be level 19 in order to gain access to a couple of key spells, including teleport and heal aura. So they've got an 18, they're setting it up so that they get level 18 here through this grinding section, and then by the end of Citadel or Mount Gulg, they will be level 19, depending on which path they take, at which point they will do their shopping right immediately afterwards.
Again, this is another place that you can take it a bit more risky if you're trying to PB, but probably won't be doing that in the race. If you stop in about level 17, level 17 and a half kind of time, you can assume that you might get some encounters you'll have to kill on the way to end of Mount Gulg. If they don't turn up, you still have to grind. You'll have to try and find those encounters, and it'll take more time. But it might save time if you don't do those couple of encounters to level up to 18. But I'm pretty sure these guys will be doing it all the way to 18 at this point.
Yeah, I know Cleric is 18, and I'm pretty sure Chris has gone for 18 as well.
Mm. I remember Nikki at some point trying to route it for 17 and a half, but it was a little bit inconsistent, so we went for 18 in the end.
You can definitely do it at 17 and a half. You would just have to probably refight the dragon zombie at the end of Citadel.
I think it was if it was 17 and a half, like a high 17 and a half, it was okay for the nightmares and dragons and stuff, that you would make it to 18, but what's a high 17 and a half? I'm not counting XP. That does not sound fun.
So Cleric has picked up his Levistone in Ice Cave, and that lets him unearth the airship, which is now the fastest mode of travel that's in the game. So he's trying to... Now he immediately goes and picks it up. He's actually parking at a slightly farther away spot.
Slightly missed the parking spot there.
Actually, the spot we land in typically here that he passed, the closer spot, it doesn't exist in the PlayStation version.
All right.
So Chris is out, and he's going to sail back and to his ship, and then sail over and pick up the airship. GreenCleric, in the meantime, has picked up his airship, and he's going to head over to the Citadel, and we're going to do Citadel of Trials here to pick up the rat tail at the end, as well as a couple key items we're going to need for more glitches.
Yeah, if you guys were wondering why we parked so far away, the airship can only park on green grass tiles. So there's a lot of forest and desert and marsh in between the Citadel Trials and the landing point, but we can't land on any of those. So we have to do a little run.
Alternatively, you can sail to it. You can sail to it a little bit closer, but it risks encounters with sea encounters.
Yeah.
There's no risk of encounters when you're in the airship. Cleric's having a real hard time running from this group.
Ouch.
And another ambush immediately.
Wow. And a poison. Excellent.
Yeah, so this is giving Chris an opportunity to catch up a little bit. And one aspect
sucking up in the chat there.
Yeah, he's sucking up to you. But I mean, one aspect you might notice of poison is if you end a combat round, your character's going to take some poison damage at the end of the combat round, and it costs a little time for the game to display that. And also, some enemies in the game regenerate health, which displays that at the end of a combat round, very similar to poison. So, if you fail to run away, or if an enemy ambushes you, it's just going to waste a slight fraction of a second more to display that information and waste your time. Here, GreenCleric's going through the Citadel of Trials. This second floor he's on is a bit of a maze. A lot of these rooms just have 1 or 2 teleporters, and you have to select the correct teleporter to advance to the next section. If you select the wrong one, it puts you back at the start of the teleporter maze, which you don't want to do. There's really no other way to exit this floor other than correctly going through each of them. These runners should know which one to take in each room. GreenCleric got a preemptive, and he's going to run from that one. We got the rare dragon zombie outside of the throne room. So this little treasure area that GreenCleric's in right now, it's guarded by nightmares as soon as you step on this tile through the doorway. You'll get 1 or 2 nightmares to show up. They're actually a runnable encounter here, although with the equipment we have, sometimes they can be difficult to run from, so it might be faster to attack them. The dragon zombie he ran into is actually an unrunnable encounter here. It's very unlucky that he got it here. There's a forced encounter tile that he'll have to step on at the very end of this floor to fight 1 or 2 of them. GreenCleric making his way through the floor. He detours slightly to grab that pair of gauntlets, which is used as an item to cast Thundara, and also can be glitched into an item that we'll use in the very final fight. So here's the final fight here, a forced encounter with the dragon zombie. 1 or 2 can spawn on this tile, and if he hasn't already done so, he's hoping his mages reach level 19 on that fight. Chris over here is getting Minotaur zombies, also an unrunnable encounter in this citadel. So he's going to have to take care of those before he can move on. So Chris is probably, I would say, a minute and a half behind right now. Still plenty of time for him to make up. GreenCleric, meanwhile, walking back to the airship. He's just got to make this long walk again. He's got to make it in reverse. He's really hoping there's no sandworms over here, which are the only really dangerous encounter on this walk. Some runners might take a safety save here just in case there's a sandworm encounter. Because if a sandworm happens to encounter one, they can ambush you and use their earthquake to kill you. It's a rare occurrence, but it does happen, and you really don't want that to happen in a race.
Yeah, that's another one of those places where the game just says, I can and will screw you over if I feel like it.
Cleric's getting a little confused.
Oh yeah,
he walked into the
just
bonus
a bit
dungeon.
Lost here.
He walked into the bonus dungeon. That's a shame. We won't get to see that.
There he is. Probably saw the lava and thought, this isn't what I remember.
Lucky for him, he hasn't actually finished Mount Gog, so he can't actually go in there and get trapped in there.
Oh wow, that would be good. That would definitely shake up the race.
Yeah. I mean, he would have to get himself killed in order to get out of there then. Because teleporting and using spells to get out of there or other items is disabled in the bonus dungeons. So now that Cleric found the right island, he's talking to Bahamut in these dragon caves over here and doing the class change now that he's got the rat tail from the Citadel. Let's see. And he's taking advantage of the fact that we have more equipment options as upgraded characters, and he's putting a Lordly Robes on his White Mage that raises the intelligence of the White Mage by 20 more points and gives her a significant enough boost that a lot of the spellcasting items we picked up will be more than enough at this point for her to use with the White Mage and kill these groups of enemies.
Yeah, I think that particularly allows us to use the Black Robe on some of the enemies that we might meet on the world map here, which is why we do it at this point. That and because the Thief now can use the gloves to be able to do that.
Yeah, he's actually, as soon as you upgrade him, he's able to equip, I believe, the healing staff that he picked up in Citadel, which is why he's able to, at that point, to glitch the Lordly Robes at that point. So the healing stab was picked up. We don't use that as an actual item in this run, except as like an emergency heal in very unusual situations.
If Chaos really plays fast noise with us.
But otherwise, you will just glitch that into an item called the Lordly Robes, which is another one of the bonus items that was added in the PSP exclusive bonus dungeon. It raises intelligence of your character by 20 points for each one that you add onto your character.
Just seeing a bit of chats. Sorry guys, I don't know if you guys can understand us, but we only speak English. We are the English commentary team, and as far as we know, there's no intentions for a Spanish translation for this tournament particularly.
So GreenCleric is doing a couple little detours on the way to the next dungeon, which is Mount Gulg. It's a little quicker to run these, get these out of the way before you do them. So he ducks in here. Well, first thing he did after getting the Clash Hinge was he went over to the caravan, which is where he bought the bottled fairy. And then he took the ferry right here to Gaia. As soon as you walk in, he unbottles it. And the ferry goes to this little spring in the back of the town. And when you visit her back here, she'll reward you with Oxyale. And Oxyale is a key item you need in order to do the Sunken Shrine dungeon that's coming up. I don't have any idea where Cleric's going right now. He's taking a very unique route here. Oh, he took the long way. Okay. Chris is at the caravan picking up the stuff. Pick up the bottle ferry here, and another, in this version of the game, another menu opens up when you buy the bottled ferry from the vendor. A number of tonics are purchasable from this vendor. We actually pick up a couple called the Giant's Tonic. It's an item you can use in combat to raise your character's maximum HP by 200 just for the length of combat. It's only an item we use on the final boss, and only if our characters don't have a certain amount of HP by the time we get to Chaos.
Which is looking pretty likely at the moment.
I would say more often than not, your characters are going to be under... You're not going to have as much HP as you want, so more often than not, you're going to be using the Giant's Tonics to overcome poor leveling. So GreenCleric here is making his way through Mount Gulg. He's on, I think, the second last floor. One thing you'll note about his pathing is he's specifically walking on lava tiles as much as possible. While this damages him 1 damage for each of his characters for every tile he steps on, there's no risk of encounters on those tiled floors, on those lava tiles.
That's a very smooth Mount Gulg.
Yeah, it's very smooth Mount Gulg, and he's done with the lava tiles at this point, and he's about to fight Merilith, the second of the 4 main bosses we have to kill. Mount Gulg is usually the quickest of the 4 dungeons. Claire, yep, 1 round on Merilith.
Easy.
Easy every time.
Merilith. Slash carry, yeah.
TSS 420 asks how long do races of this game usually last. Usually, depending on the ability of the runner,
the luck involved and the
luck
ability
involved.
of the runner. Yeah, about 135 probably average, possibly up to 145 if it's not going well.
The luckiest runners can finish probably around 1 hour and 30 minutes, but it will be more common for most to finish over 130 and anywhere between 130 and 140. But luck plays a huge factor in just how long it takes you to actually go. So Chris is purchasing some spells here, and actually it looks like GreenCleric's doing that. Chris's route is a little different. He's doing the shopping, I think, before he does Mount Gulg. And GreenCleric is doing it where he's shopping afterwards. before they move on to the next areas. Alright, so Chris is in Mount Gog now, so he's going to take his quick jaunt through, hopefully with not too many encounters for his sake. Meanwhile, Cleric is done. Nobody's doing the second spell shopping here. He's going to grab Hilara for the White Mage, Teleport for the Black Mage. And when he was in Elfheim earlier, he picked up Haste for the Black Mage. And I didn't see if he also got it for the Thief. It's sometimes possible for the Thief to have enough experience to get... Nope, he didn't get it.
2 MP, nah. I never have enough presence of mind to think of something like that. Oh, that's a little bit of a missed park there.
I don't think it's a missed park. I think he's just used to where you park in the NES versions, which is pretty similar to the
I see.
There are some closer spots that they added in some of these in this remake. You may not be familiar with that.
Nope. Look at me, I'm just a FF1 fetus. Don't understand all these old group things.
Yeah, there's a slightly closer landing spot that he just parked a little outside of. GreenCleric's here in on-rack. Now that he has the Oxy, we can go right into the Sunken Shrine. Chris, meanwhile, is right at the end of Mount Gulg, about to face Merilith. But a lot of the little chores that you do after Mount Gulg, Chris has already done. So he's not as far behind as he might look. Merilith goes right down for him. Here in the Sunken Shrine, you got a couple of objectives. The first thing you're going to do is you're going to go up in this first room and then go right and make your way to the 5th floor to pick up the Rosetta Stone, which is a key item we need in order to access the next dungeon after this one. And then after that, we backtrack and we head towards Kraken and detour along the way to pick up one more key item we need for yet another glitch. Cleric is getting a group of ghosts here, which is unrunnable. But with the setup he's got, he can use the Mage's Staff to kill them pretty quickly. Cleric is hoping to avoid. There's like 3 unrunnable encounter types you can run into in the Sunken Shrine. You're looking to avoid ghosts, you're looking to avoid water elementals, especially if they're alone, and you're looking to avoid large groups of Sahagins, because all 3 of those are unrunnable. You might run into water elementals in a couple of situations with Water Naga, which is actually runnable. But the runner may not know that, and they may opt to kill it instead. Depending on how familiar they are with it.
It took me a while to realize that.
So Cleric's got the Rosetta Stone, and he's going to use the teleport we picked up from Melmond, and use that teleport. When you cast it, allows you to transport you right back to the end of the last floor you were just on. So he can use it twice to go back 2 floors, putting him pretty close to the start of the dungeon again. And then he's got to head the other direction to head towards Kraken. Chris is getting an encounter on the way over to Onrak. He's opting to fight these wyverns, even though they're runnable. Wyverns are runnable though, but he's opting to kill them.
Tired of being trolled, I imagine.
Okay, so GreenCleric still making his way there. He's getting a lot of sharks. Sharks is a good thing though, because sharks are runnable here. Chris is right about to start Sunken Shrine now. So he's probably about 3/4 of the dungeon behind right now, which is a couple minutes. Need experience. Oh, that's not good. So this is a runnable encounter. Chris might not be aware of that. Or he might be taking
he's doing it for experience, yeah. Now, this is a route I'm not so familiar with, so I'm not entirely sure why he's needing experience.
I mean, the Barbarian Sword route that he's using was very, very prominent in the first tournament we did 2 years ago, before we knew about the Lust Dagger, because the Lust Dagger was discovered.
Yeah. I mean, I vaguely remember this route, but is this the one where you have to be a certain level to get Helog? Am I making that up?
No.
That's GBA, right? I know things, honest.
That's like, I think all bosses, maybe?
I get my routes very mixed up. Don't really enjoy doing multiple versions of the same game, because I just get them all completely mixed up in my head.
GreenCleric is on the second last floor now of the shrine, and he stopped over here to pick up a light axe. The light axe can be glitched into yet another piece of armor called the Survival Vest, which is yet another item that was added as a reward in the PSP bonus dungeon here. In this case, it adds even more agility to our characters. 15 points of agility for each one you equip. So this is the most amount. This is the item with the highest amount of agility. There's actually one other item with even more agility called the Shadow Mask, but there's no timely way to get it in an any percent run. That adds 30 points of agility.
Oh, the HP.
That's what the tonics are for, Chris.
Let it happen. Just let chaos kill you. Why not?
And here we see Sahagins on GreenCleric's side. This is actually unrunnable, but he's going to use the gauntlets we picked up back in the Citadel to kill those quickly with the White Mage. So the equipment setup we have on the White Mage is you have 2 survival vests on and 2 lordly robes on, which is increasing her intelligence by 40 points and her agility by 30 points. Combined with a Lust Dagger, it's another 20 points of agility. So she has a very high chance of going quickly in the turn order and enough intelligence to be able to kill the enemies using all these different items we've picked up that cast spells. So he's not risking a Blizzara on that water elemental. He's using the Judgment Staff just in case. Water elementals, you would think they'd be vulnerable to lightning, but they're actually vulnerable to ice spells in this game. So we have an item.
So if you freeze the water, then it can't do much, can it?
That's true.
Whereas if you electrify the water, it just hurts anyone who's in it. So surely that would hurt us. Yes, I have spent far too much time thinking about this.
I mean, the game's 30 years old. It doesn't have to make that much sense anymore.
No, I've given up. I've given up on making sense out of this.
So it's a little unlucky for GreenCleric to be getting these on the last floor, because this is like the only runnable he can see on this floor.
Yeah.
Water elementals.
It's very common not to see it at all, but 2 of them. Wonderful.
And in contrast to a lot of other versions, this is probably one of the easiest fiends that we're about to fight. He's not... Kraken is nowhere near as dangerous in this version with the equipment that we've picked up as he is in other versions.
It goes down very quickly indeed.
GreenCleric opting to attack with his characters that have Lust Daggers, which they don't do a lot of damage to Kraken, but if your melee characters happen to low roll, it usually is enough to push it over and make sure it ends holding around.
Shadows in the Dark. I didn't know anyone played anything on a PSP anymore. This is the this is the new modern version. We all get told that we're young 21st century people because we play on the remake. You should see the really old version.
Well, the funny thing about this version, even this version's already 10 years old.
True.
This and a remake of Final Fantasy II were both released on the PSP back in 2007 in celebration of the 20th anniversary. And Final Fantasy just celebrated its 30th anniversary as a franchise.
I feel old.
Yeah, I am old. So what do we got here? So Chris is working his way through. He was trying to use the gauntlets earlier, but one function of this route is that he might not have enough intelligence on his mages in order to use the items such as the gauntlets to take down groups of Sahagins quickly and easily. So a more common strategy in his route is to use the Judgment Staff instead, which takes longer overall, but is a higher chance of succeeding on the first try.
Alternatively, he's got his overpowered swords, he can just chop them up.
Yeah. But it's a little slow against 9 different enemies.
I think he went the wrong way a little bit there.
It's a longer way, it's not really wrong though. There's 2 ways to go on the final floor. Going up is a little bit longer than going to the left.
So many alternative routes that I have no idea about.
Yeah, if you're looking for in-depth knowledge of this game, this is not the version to run.
Yeah.
You don't need to know a lot about the game, which is...
You really don't. You need to know exactly the steps to take, and that's about it.
It's a great beginner-level speedrun for that reason, but I mean, it's also a great gateway to getting into the other versions if you're interested as well. This is the version I learned to speedrun this on 2 years ago. And he's getting a green dragon, which is a rare one here.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
We all get very excited when we see rare encounters. It's one of the few bits of RNG that we actually enjoy.
Well, we enjoy seeing it, we just don't enjoy actually running into it when we're running. Definitely enjoy watching other people run into it.
I enjoy it. It's worth the time loss to see something interesting after so many hours of grind.
So GreenCleric is here in the waterfall, which you visit after the Sunken Shrine, and it's just one long winding cave with a lot of random encounters. You got green dragons here, which is an unrunnable encounter. There's only like a 1 in 64 chance they spawn in any given encounter here, so it's pretty rare. In this final room here is a treasure room with 6 chests, but he only needs 1 of them, which has a ribbon. And then he talks to the robot to pick up the warp cube, which is another key item he needs. But the ribbon, we're going to turn that into a Gigantic axe.
Gigantic axe. It's a very big axe.
Yeah. Anyways, we don't even need the axe. The only reason we want the axe is because the axe glitches into ribbons.
Yeah,
the glitches go
a
both
ribbon,
ways.
But secretly not.
So it's kind of a unique glitch in that you're grabbing the Gigantax, or you're grabbing the ribbon so that you can make a Gigantax, and then you're going to use the Gigantax to basically reverse that and then create more ribbons out of thin air. I mean, all these items we're creating are essentially coming out of nowhere. So we don't need, we just need the base item that lets us glitch into the corresponding item. We don't need, and the game is giving us free copies of it.
Yeah, and that's the rare situation where we actually get the item that we want in order to make more of it. Rather than some item that we don't want and we just never look at again.
Yeah, it's the only situation in this run. Usually we're just picking up an item that corresponds to an item that we want, and then glitching it directly. And here we're picking up the item we want and we're glitching it into an item that we can use to glitch more copies of the item we really, really want. So after you get out of there, you go back to your ship, you sail down to Melmond, and you visit Dr. Gruen in the northeast corner. You can translate the Rosetta Stone that we picked up in the Sunken Shrine. Once you have that, you can talk to the NPCs in the next town we're going to visit called Lufenia.
You can learn a language in 5 seconds. Heard it here first.
And you just got to jump up and down a few times.
Don't forget the arm wave. The arm wave is very important.
So, after we get that translated, we go on this little walk to Lufenia. Lufenia's got a very inconvenient parking area. Well north of the
also
town.
got a very inconvenient Minotaur zombie problem, which we're having demonstrated for us by Cleric right now. These guys aren't runnable, even when they turn up with trolls, so either we can kill them with barbarian swords if there's not too many of them, or we blast them with some fire attacks.
Ashes of Varan's asking what is allowed for any percent of this game. I mean, pretty much anything goes, but the only significant glitch that we're truly taking advantage of is the equipment glitch. which is giving us extremely overpowered equipment, and we're using that to give our characters super stats and shorten any necessary grinding that we need to, which makes this take about half as long as other versions of the game as a result. Maybe a little bit more than half.
Yeah, beyond that, I don't think there are any other glitches or anything that we can use.
No, I think
we're
any
not
other
allowed to
glitches.
use any hardware modification or anything, so that would be out. Or anything that reduces encounters or anything, so we still have the original encounters and all their joys.
That is true. The equipment glitch does make this a breeze, but it doesn't.
It really does.
It makes it quick, short, and sweet, but it doesn't give you like an automatic pass to the end of the game. You still have to go through all the encounters. You still got to dodge all the really nasty encounters and hope they don't ambush you.
Yeah, it makes this speedrun a lot more about luck than skill, which makes it really interesting for a tournament situation, actually. Because you can have very skilled runners getting beaten by people who just got lucky. Or the other way around, you know?
Yep. So GreenCleric went into Lefenia, and now that he was able to talk with the NPCs, he got the chime from one of them. And the chime is the last item he needed in order to get to the final dungeon with Tiamat at the end. You need 2 key items to get up to Tiamat. You need chime to get into the Mirage Tower, and then at the end of the Mirage Tower you need the Warp Cube to be able to teleport up to the Flying Fortress where Tiamat actually is.
Can't imagine how annoying that would be if you didn't know and you got halfway through and then had to go and find something else.
A common mistake people will make, especially when they're learning this game, is they will forget a key item somewhere along the path of anywhere. I mean, there's any number of key items you can forget to grab in this.
Yep.
And forgetting to grab them can be a real time waster, because it can often mean minutes of backtracking. Here we got a sandworm.
Oh, nice. Gotta love that forest sandworm.
Looks like GreenCleric knows the short landing spot for at least Mirage Tower.
Yep.
There's another landing spot that's even farther down, but the one he chose is much quicker.
Yeah.
So there's only 3 floors here in the Mirage Tower, and you got a 9 enemy. It's going to be
this could
really
be messy.
costly. You shouldn't be in any danger, but if they choose...
Yeah, we are overgeared here, so it should be okay.
Alright, Chris, meanwhile, is done with Melman. So now he's going to make his way over
another
to
ambush.
It's a nasty one, because these gazes can waste a lot of time.
Luckily they're not doing too many. Chris now heading for Lufenia. Gotta run the Minotaur Zombie Gauntlet.
Yeah, the biggest worry is the enemies that you see on this walk across Lufenia is Minotaur zombies, which are unrunnable. Everything else is pretty much runnable. You can run into them by themselves, or you can run into them with these trolls.
Oh, there we go.
Whoops.
And Chris on auto run.
So yeah, the game doesn't tell him anything if he tries to run from this unrunnable encounter. It just wastes his time. At the very end here of Mirage Tower, there's a forced encounter here with the Blue Dragon. You can also run into them as a random encounter, a rare random encounter. And then he's using the Warp Cube here finally to enter Flying Fortress. And then, luckily for us in this version, you don't need anything from the Flying Fortress other than to go straight to Tiamat. So he's taking the shortest path possible to go up the 5 floors to get to Tiamat. He particularly doesn't want to run into Evil Eyes, which can also spawn here, as they're unrunnable. Ooh, an Allosaurus ambush. Alright, Chris has entered Lufenia, so he's going to make his way to the back of the town and talk to him, but he's got the NPC
Oh
in the way.
no, not the NPCs. This town's got very narrow passageways and a lot of people wandering around. You know what that means? A lot of congestion. It can get very messy here.
And you can basically push against them and they'll eventually move out of your way, but it's up to them just how fast they actually want to move.
Yeah, I'm not absolutely sure, but they seem to turn to one direction and then turn to another direction and then think about whether they want to go in another direction. They can try out all the possible directions before actually moving out the way, which means they take a very long time. No war mech, that's a good point.
No war mech yet. You can still get it after Tiamat.
Oh yeah, that's the best kind of war mech.
And even if he doesn't, Chris always has a chance as well.
Chris, if you get war mech, you get a free pass to the finals. I heard it definitely from Leno himself. He said it was totally true. Wink, wink. You can do it.
So Cleric has taken Tiamat down, and he's all done with all 4 of the bosses. So all that's left is to head to the final dungeon to take on Chaos.
Are all bosses till the end just cheese? Most of the bosses to the end are just cheese. Chaos, however.
Chaos can still be dangerous.
Yeah, lots of the things we set up here are purely for Chaos. Such as some of the spells that we get, and some of the items we have, just to make sure that we have enough HP to be able to survive one attack, etc.
Chaos is still no joke in this version, that's true.
To be honest, the White Mage herself we probably wouldn't bother having unless Chaos was in this run. So we would probably have another damage dealing ability if it wasn't for Chaos. Ability, not ability class.
When you get here for the first time, this Chaos Shrine, and in the back half of the game, you see this little cutscene here. This is showing the opening of the Labyrinth of Time, which is the bonus dungeon exclusive to this version. But we don't visit that in this run for the same reason as the other ones. Is that there's just nothing that's worth the time to go in there for. We
can't be bothered.
It's too time-consuming to go in there and get anything of any note, as opposed to just running through the regular route. A more common category that would visit that is called All Bosses, which is the same as the regular game, but you also visit and defeat all the main boss, all the extra bosses that were added in the 4 bonus dungeons in the GBA version, plus the final super boss that was added in this PSP version.
So Cleric there doing a safety save before he heads into the final dungeon. Because we've got a couple of encounters that can truly wreck us.
Yeah, this is definitely the longest overall dungeon in the game, and probably the most dangerous overall. But our equipment level is significantly better here than a couple other points, so other points like Ice Cave are generally a little more ruinous if you get certain bad encounters. We're pretty well equipped to handle most encounters here, but the most dangerous by far is going to be Chaos, and a couple of the other Fiend refights are going to be a little dicey, depending on whether or not they use their special abilities.
Oh, I would definitely put the White Dragons, okay, not quite at Chaos's level, but definitely like just a step below Chaos. White Dragon Ambush is a super boss in itself.
White Dragon Ambush, you got Lich 2 and Tiamat 2 can do some damage.
Yep. Cleric's not got a bad Black Mage at this point. Pretty good thief.
No, it's right around the cutoff.
Looking okay.
So Cleric's through the early part of it. The first 3 floors, you start on the first floor, you go up to the 3rd floor, and your progress is gated here by this little tablet that's here. You have to play the loop, and that removes it. And then we head down to the basement levels. Got to go back to the 2nd floor, then the 1st floor, and then there's 4 basement levels On each of them, one of the fiends is waiting a refight.
Oh, that's an accidental run from some ice gigases, which aren't runnable. It's going to be a bit of a costly time loss.
Meanwhile, Chris is getting close to a Warmack floor to see if he gets one or not.
Luckily, none of the Winter Wolves doing their Ice Storm attack.
They didn't do it in this run. They got lucky in that one.
Ah, right.
No, they can definitely do it here. He just didn't do it.
Oh, and he took a risk on a Mage's Staff. Unfortunately, not high enough damage roll.
No, not with this route, usually. It's usually safer to Judgment Staff this group because Fire with the White Mage usually doesn't do enough to kill the Gigases.
Yeah, the Gigases got lots of HP. Now, this is the dangerous floor. Got quite a high chance of getting White Dragons here, which are runnable, but can also do a hell of a lot of damage in a very short time.
Alright, so Tiamat's down. Went down pretty fast on this one. He could still get a Warmack after Tiamat.
We can still hope for Warmack.
Yeah. But this is the last chance, though, if we don't see it today.
It's alright. I'll get one on Friday.
I hope so. You had one last tournament, right?
I did.
I think one of the only ones.
It was glorious. I still went out in the group stages, though, so... Unfortunately, Chris, I lied. You don't get to go to the final.
Alright, GreenCleric take a safety save here before he steps on this tile to face Lich. His Lich fight is a little different this time. Lich has access to Flare, which is the same spell we've been using on a lot of different enemies. So I was using a haste strategy to try to do enough damage to Lich to kill him right off in the first round, but it didn't work. It didn't roll high enough, so Lich is going to cast Flare. That's going to kill at least the Black Mage.
Oh!
And the Thief too, but
Ouch.
he should be okay. It's not deadly if you're in full... I mean, it shouldn't really kill you if you're in full health unless you had particularly bad HP rolls throughout the run. Alright, so while it killed two of his guys, he's still more than capable of surviving a follow-up turn. So he makes his way now. He's on Marilith's floor. Chris, meanwhile, is at the start of the Chaos Shrine, working his way through this little cutscene. Then he's gonna open it up and transport back in time to try to face off Chaos, and we'll have to see if he can catch up or not. It's gonna be tough for him to catch up. He's pretty significantly behind at this point, so we'll take a...
Especially with particularly the most dangerous thing that Chaos can do that will make you have to reset completely is either taking out your Black Mage or your Thief with a very high rolling magic ability, or taking out your White Mage with a critical physical attack.
It's probably going to take a Chaos or a mistake on GreenCleric's part at this point in order to lose. Faraga is a good time waster here, so...
Good sign that Delilah managed to survive it, though. That's a very quick death eye.
Yeah.
Good start.
If Chris can get through the next two floors without too many encounters, he could definitely make up time. Enough so that at least a Chaos could potentially swing it back.
And Cleric here is instantly stepping out onto the next floor and getting the most annoying encounter on this one. This is the only encounter on this floor that's not runnable, but you can get large groups of water elementals.
Oh, Chris is running away from Ice Giga's Winter Wolf, which is unrunnable here.
Oh no.
Not what he needs.
Ice Storm hype. There we go. We wanted to see it earlier, we can see it now.
GreenCleric, meanwhile, is getting Sahagin White Sharks, which is not particularly dangerous here. And now we've stepped onto the Kraken fight. So again, most of these bosses are still pushovers, but they have slightly more powerful abilities and more health in this refight. The only ones that are any significantly dangerous are honestly Tiamat or Lich. Yeah, Chris is not getting what he needs at this point. He needed a pretty clean floor with a lot of runnable encounters, or just no encounters in order to catch up. And he's not getting that at this point.
Speak of, another Ice Gigas and Winter Wolves encounter. Judgment Staff, my boy! Use the Judgment Staff, you can do it!
And here we've got Cleric on the last of the refights with Tiamat. Tiamat has significantly more HP on this refight than the other Fiends. So this is, if you're really lucky, it's a 2-round fight. If not, it's a 3-round fight. That might kill the Black Mage.
Yeah, that one always hurts a lot.
Black Mage is like right at that danger zone of HP totals.
I have never seen this many Ice Gigases in my life.
And Cleric is through, and he's on the final floor, which has no encounters other than the final fight. So he's just going to take a quick period to set up his party properly for the final fight. So he's going to ether up his mages, resurrect and heal everyone back to full health, and then he's going to do a couple of glitches specific for this last fight. We'll see what he does. Okay, we put on a barbarian sword. Did he mean to put that on?
I don't think so.
Oh,
There you go.
He's got the golden staff. The gauntlets we picked up earlier. Glitch into the golden staff. Yep.
Taking off the survival vest so that the white mage always goes for the last turn, because she should always be at the end of the turn to heal up after Chaos has done the damage. For that reason, we take her clothes off.
I mean, we put her clothes on.
We put her technically we put her clothes on. Just because it's a faster input than taking them off.
I didn't see if Cleric saved or not, though.
Good point. No, did I? I didn't notice a save.
Oh, he saved. Never mind.
Good.
I can see on the re.
Oof.
Good for him.
That definitely would be a turnaround.
That would be one reason this could turn around.
Yep.
But saving definitely can save you time if you gotta go back. Yeah, a save is generally recommended before you fight this fight because it could be extremely random.
Because Chaos is a piece of genitalia. I will not swear.
This is usually a 6 or 7 round fight depending on how it goes. The strategy on the early turns depends mostly on the maximum HP values of your Black Mage and your Thief. You want to try to raise them over... If they're under 300, you want to raise them over 300 if you can, using the Giant's Tonics we picked up from the caravan earlier. The Mage is always going to be... Or White Mage is always going to be healing using the Golden Staff we had earlier. Black Mage is going to be hasting the Warrior, the Thief, and possibly himself. And then after they're all hasted, the other 3 characters will all be attacking.
And we're getting lots of physicals from Chaos here, which, as long as he doesn't do a crazy critical on one of the weaker characters, is good, because it's the fastest attack he can do.
Yeah, Chaos has a large variety of attacks he can use.
Such as really melodramatic, over-the-top, beautiful animations, magic attacks. But they take up a lot of time. You don't really want to see them.
The key in this fight is surviving usually the first 2 or 3 turns to see what Chaos does. If Chaos does not spam his special attacks like Blaze, Tsunami, and Cyclone in the very first turns of this fight, then he should have a pretty good chance of significantly finishing this fight pretty successfully. The only other risk at that point is usually just a landing a crit on an important character such as the white mage.
Even then, if you're lucky, you can still make it to the end.
Yeah, it's still possible to power through if you don't have any heals, especially if he gives you cooperative attacks. But here we see this is the full skill cycle pretty much going on. These attacks are powerful and they take a long time to animate. So it can lose you a lot of time, especially if you're going for like PB attempts.
Oh, rip. Yeah, Chris looking like he just got a wrong input, and therefore is just looking at these guys, really.
And Cleric finishes 140.09. Chris, meanwhile, is getting vengeance by slicing and dicing every single thing in his path.
GG, Cleric! Great job. Quite satisfying to watch, like, the black mage and white mage just slashing the crap out of everything. Particularly the black mage. I'm so used to my black mage being nothing but a letdown that I'm really enjoying seeing him with a giant sword.
Yeah, there's something very satisfying about having your mages wielding very, very large swords in this one. Cracking down for Chris. He's just got Tiamat and Chaos to go.
And we're seeing a slightly weak black mage here.
He's probably going to die here.
Oh, it's gonna die. Oh,
really?
Oh, they've got ribbons on, haven't they? I forgot that.
Oh, that's right. That's right in this route. Everybody gets ribbons after that waterfall.
Which is rather nice for towns like this.
Yeah, it definitely guards against that Thunderbolt move.
Yeah, ribbons not only protect against instant death, but they also halve all elemental attacks, which is very, very powerful in this dungeon because all of the fiends have elemental attacks that they like to shove at you, and most of Chaos's attacks are elemental as well. So, good thing to have on.
Well, the only one of his special attacks that actually is affected by the ribbon is Blaze. The other ones are actually considered non-elemental in spite of the fact that they look like they're air or water related.
Does it not reduce the damage anyway, though?
Not for Tsunami or Cyclone.
That is silly.
So Chris is setting up for the final fight. Taking a safety save, which is always recommended for this run.
And time to slice and dice Chaos himself.
Alright, so Chris's characters, his Thief and Black Mage specifically, are a little low on health, so he's probably going to want to use Giant's Tonics on them in the opening round to get their health up at a safe level.
You just have to hope that they survive the first round until your White Mage can get Healer off.
Yeah, the most dangerous here is either a physical on them before the heal goes off, or Blaze.
Ah, there we go.
Blaze, he probably has enough to survive,
Should
but
be
it's going to
okay,
be really close.
I think.
It's going to be close. Ooh.
There we go. Good job, Black Mage.
Yeah, he should be okay now.
We need to stop with the commentator's curse, though.
Yeah, meanwhile, Black Mage is going to be hasting people up. White Mage is going to be on heal duty. The other two are going to be attacking. Ooh, that was a nasty crit. So he's a little vulnerable if there's a tsunami here. No tsunami, so he's probably okay here.
Yeah, sometimes if Chaos attacks the same character multiple times, because the White Mage can only do a certain amount of healing, because we haven't grinded her high enough to have a higher level ability, you still can't quite make up enough HP to take the next attack in the next turn. So
that was another nasty crit.
But Chaos! Stop going for the characters!
Although to his credit, though, I mean, these physical attacks are by far Chaos's quickest animation. So they save the most time if you happen to see those. That's a lot of crits, wow. You can definitely save a lot of time on this fight if you just get a lot of critical attacks versus him using his long animations. Yeah, that's another critical. Is that 4 or 5?
I don't think he's used anything since the first turn other than attacks, has he?
Yeah, Blaze. Blaze was the only other one. That's a near ideal Chaos fight.
Go. And GG to Chris as well. Both runners struggling with some absolutely horrendous RNG there. That's an excellent question. Dear co-commentator, are we doing interviews?
If they'd like to come in, they're more than welcome.
Come in, boys, and rant about the pain of FF1.
Can I get him in here? He might need to be moved by our restreamer.
Yeah, good point.
Oh,
brilliant.
I forgot I could actually join this because I'm considered a commentator.
Hi there, Chris.
Hello. That run was absolutely god-awful. So, looking through all of my splits, I golded the last 3, and I've been behind since Crown.
Yeah, you did look like you were catching up at the end, but not enough, unfortunately.
Yeah, I was behind by almost 3 minutes consistently. And this is against my splits that I raced against Cruel. And I died after getting Levistone, and I had to regrind, and I was still behind.
Wow. So
RNG, definitely not good.
RNG, always the winner.
Yeah, I ended up, because I got so many encounters that I wasn't able to run from, I turned on my laptop and was like, I'll watch the stream, see how well this is going. And Green had the almost same RNG I was getting, and I was like, oh, well, at least it's going to be close.
Yeah, it was quite close for most of the race, actually.
I don't know if Green's coming in for an interview or not, but definitely GG to him. I'm ready to be done with this game.
I think
you've only started too.
Yeah,
I know. I think before this tournament started, because I remember people talking about PBs. That was actually my last run before the tournament started.
I
had not ran this game in 2 months, so I'm still sort of rusty with it, and I've not really practiced it since. So,
and we've just been joined by GreenCleric as well. Hi there.
Hey, hello.
Congrats.
Yeah, congratulations.
Congrats, man.
Thanks.
So 140.09. I mean, it's a winning time, but I'm guessing you're not very happy with that overall.
Oh God, no. I mean, as a D-Rust, it's not a bad D-Rust. As far as maybe couple of silly little mistakes, and then a little bit of really, really bad RNG at some points. Yeah, I mean, definitely could have been better, but a little bit of it you can't. There's some stuff you really can't do anything about in the run. But I mean, for now, I'll take it. But I definitely need to get a little more practice in.
Yeah, it's always fun managing the RNG when it ambushes you, isn't it? Not meaning any puns with the ambushes at all.
Oh no, not all. But I mean,
it's Final Fantasy 1.
Yeah, exactly. It's Final Fantasy 1 PSP. It's like, you have to be prepared for this. It's like you're thinking, oh well, the RNG really wasn't that bad. I'm not going to have too much trouble with it. And then after a little while, you're like, oh yeah, that's why we like this game.
Right. I contemplated. I went to work today and I was like, I should buy a ton of alcohol before this race. It'll make it so much better. And then I completely forgot to buy the alcohol. And I'm kicking myself for it now because I wish I was drunk for this race.
It might have helped the pain. It probably wouldn't have helped the execution.
Oh, the tears were salty.
Right. As soon as you start doing something, as soon as you start doing something like, okay, I'm going to take a shot for every ambush, or I'm going to take a shot for every unrunnable encounter. I mean, we'll be here all night.
Yeah. At least it gives you something to do other than cry.
I mean, we here at Speed Gaming don't advocate that.
Of course we don't.
We can't stop you.
I was so hoping for Warmech though, because it would have made this run completely worth it, and I didn't get it. I contemplated just sitting there grinding for it.
I have seen people do that before, showboating looking for a Warmech.
I was behind.
He'll turn up eventually.
He will.
I was behind, so I was just like, whatever.
Yes, we saw you furiously slashing at everything on Kraken's floor.
Slice and dice. And then I ran away from Sagging Princes, and I was like, oh, okay, well, that's a thing. I don't even remember pressing the button inputs for it, but, whatever.
Yeah, you kind of have to make your own entertainment in this race.
Yeah. So what's your next races against, guys? Who have you got next?
I think we both have Kroll.
Right. Kroll, the old master himself.
Yeah, I can't even remember the time difference between mine and his first race. I'm not looking forward to it.
Yeah, he's a tough opponent. He won the first race, or the first tournament 2 years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. He's a former champion, so I mean, you have to give him his respect. You have to give him his due. Hopefully, I know I'm getting in touch with him. Hopefully, within the next few days or so, we should have something worked out for that one. I think I'm going to face him first, and then it's going to be time for the rematches.
Uh-huh. Do we think we're going to do better next time? Do we think FF1 will be kinder on the rematch?
This is FF1. No. It's going to be worse.
Surely you've had your bad luck now, and now it's going to be a perfect run.
There's one thing I'm looking forward to. It's the moment I drop out of this and can just be a commentator. Because I want to curse as many people as I can. Because that's all this race was commentators curse.
Hey, we tried.
I was listening to it, and it was just like, oh, hey, they're saying up, and here it is. Nice.
I mean, no lie, this is a lot of fun to commentate, and it's a lot more fun to watch than it is necessarily to race sometimes.
Yeah,
because you can get really frustrating.
It's the whole you're watching and you're going, oh, that's a shame. You're having a good laugh or whatever. Then you decide to race, and then you remember, okay, karma really hurts. Yeah,
you're like, that's never happened before.
Yeah, I don't remember that happening. Maybe I might have seen it in about 5 or 6 races, but no, never happened to me. Never.
Yeah. It's always someone else. Well, thank you very much for a great race, guys. I mean, it wasn't very lucky for either of you, but it was quite close for us watching. So thank you very much for a hard-fought race.
I'm looking forward to tomorrow's race. That's all I'm gonna say.
Tomorrow's race is
Leo and Goku.
Goku. Oh,
Goku.
That
Yeah,
should be good.
yeah, it's their rematch actually.
All right. I haven't even had a match yet, and people are already doing their rematches.
Yeah, neither am I. I'm looking
Your
forward to my matches.
Kib, your first match is Friday, no?
I am on Friday, yes.
And I don't have one scheduled yet, but
So
should be
looking
coming up in the near
forward to
future.
this.
So what I'm hearing is I need to wake up early that day and commentate that race and just give you commentators.
Oh no. Karma comes back.
It's too bad. It's too bad. I'm working at 12 that day because we could have been like, okay, let's turn tables here.
Mm-hmm.
Not even in the same group. I'm getting payback. This is great.
Yeah, absolutely. It's every racer for themselves right now.
Well, this was fun.
Yeah, thanks guys. I guess we should wrap this up and I don't know, are we heading back over to the Link to the Past tournament? Is that still happening?
Not sure. I'm sure we could find out though.
But anyway, yeah, thanks everyone for watching. And Victor is Cleric. Very sad loser is Chris, who did a very great job.
Oh, I'm not sad. I'm
very
over it now.
happy loser who can't wait to lose.
That's exactly it. I'm
This
ready to
has
be
been
over
the
this game.
optimistic FF1 tournament. Thank you guys for watching.
Alrighty, have a good evening.
Yeah, take care. Night.